How different my life would be if I only knew then what I know now. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli Zab with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, we inspire. And we've been working on a series based upon a tremendously good article by a gentleman named Thomas Opung. 103 life lessons people often learn too late. And it's part of my job to teach you those lessons now so it won't be too late for you. So let's continue and get started. First one is, think progress, not perfection. This is a key thing in so many different ways. One of the ways that it's critical is that many times people will not start a project until they can see the finish line and that their plan is absolutely perfect to get them from the starting line to the finish line. Ding, 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 newsflash, wrong way to be thinking. The key element is have the vision of the end result, the final outcome that you seek, but you only have to know enough to get you to the starting line. That's how your plan has to work, just to get you to the starting line. And then once you get to the starting line, you'll run into an obstacle, a roadblock, and a new starting line will appear. And successful people recognize that it's not running a perfect race, it's finding the next starting line until you get to the finish line. The other thing is, perfection in many cases is something that is impossible to achieve. I mean, one of the things that in my lifetime I'd like to see as an example is for world hunger to no longer exist. Well, chances are pretty good that that's not going to happen in my lifetime. However, there are steps that we can take that will bring us to a new starting line, a new starting line, a new starting line, and we will advance the cause. We won't reach perfection, but we will be making progress. And progress is the elixir of life. Ask anybody that's on a diet as they've lost 2 pounds this week or 3 pounds, 5 pounds over the last month. I'm making progress. It gives them encouragement. It creates enthusiasm. Progress is the elixir of life. Remember, think progress, not perfection. Your ambition, goal, or even ideas mean nothing without execution. It's outstanding to have great ideas. However, how many people do you know that say, you know, I thought of that first. Boy, I should have gone forward and done that. I would have been a great inventor. Or, boy, that was a great idea. I thought of that. You know what? Get off your backside and start making moves. You're not going to reach any sort of a desired outcome just thinking about it. You have to, there's two sides to it. There's the mental side, there's the physical side. You've got to first have the mental side, the creativity, the imagination to see a what if outcome. But if you don't take any steps, you're running in place on a treadmill. It means absolutely nothing unless you execute it. And one of the things that you want to do is you want to practice your execution. So if you want to be, as an example, let's say a great writer, the first prose that you produce is probably not going to win you the Pulitzer Prize. It's going to take time. So you have to work harder to make your execution better and better and better. Constant worrying, negative thinking, and always expecting the worst can take a toll on your emotional and physical health. Boy, is that ever true. Have you ever been in a scenario where bad things have happened, and you just start to feel physically sick. I know that's happened to me, and I'll tell you when it happened. When it happened the most, Eli, and I'm sorry to tell you this is going to happen to you. When I was really young, even younger than you are now, Eli's a teenager right now, like 16 years old, and even before that, when I was in the 8th grade, a girl broke up with me on the Valentine's Day dance. I couldn't eat. I was like so in love. I was so miserable. My physical health started to deteriorate. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever felt that way. And that's one example from the personal side of the balance sheet. But you can have business losses that will make you feel exactly the same way. But you know what? If you're constantly worrying and thinking negatively all the time, and you're expecting the worst, then you're feeling bad, and it hasn't even happened yet. And you still will have the same physical reaction to that type of thinking. Because the mind, when you wake up sometimes, you ever wake up from a dream and you feel like, or a night meal, and you feel like, you're all sweaty and you're there and you're like, oh, it was so real. It was so real. Well, the mind can't differentiate between what's real and what's imaginary in many cases. So, try and curtail that type of negative thinking. And the other thing is, sometimes, there are people that always have that negative aura about them. Aren't those the people that you say, boy, I wish I could disappear and get the heck out of here right now, because I don't need that negative vibe, because it permeates, it infects, and it's like it's an incredibly poor virus that you cannot get inoculated from except by social distancing. How apropos to today's times. When you waste a moment, you've actually killed it in a sense, haven't you? How many times have certain situations happened, and then like upon reflection later in the day, or when you're lying in bed and you're thinking about, oh, woe is me this, and you say, I should have said that. I didn't think to say that. And you say, boy, I wish I could turn the hands of time back, because I got a really good response to that is. Now, that's a scenario in terms of, social interaction, talking with people. But there's also that same scenario happens when you have an opportunity to do something and you become Mr. Putofsky, which means you put it off. You want to take a trip to Tomorrow Isle. Tomorrow I'll do it then. Do it now. Don't waste the moments. When you have something that you can do right now, do it right now. We talked in the past about blocking out your time and having singleness of purpose. Okay, don't allow yourself to be distracted. But when there's something that comes up and you're not within that block of time, do it now. And even having that block of time, do what you set out to do for that 2 hours or 3 hours that you're saying, this is going to be my most productive time. I'm not going to let any distractions disturb this time, because this is when I'm going to have my singleness of purpose. And you get into the flow, and when you get into that special flow, that's when you're the most productive. So don't waste those moments, because you're killing time. You don't rely on data or facts, and when you do that, you push the impossible. Let's see, can we think of anything in today's times that correlates with that? How about, oh, this virus is already, we're right around the corner. We got this puppy solved. Hey, by Easter, we'll be in church. It'll be solved. There's only 1 or 2 cases. Doesn't it? And they did not pay attention to the science. And what happens when you don't pay attention to the science? Well, right now we're looking at, what, 400,000 deaths that could have been maybe not necessarily avoided, but certainly lessened by paying more attention to the science and what you need to do. Oh, I'm not going to wear a mask. It's not presidential to wear a mask. You know, I'm a leader and people are going to follow what I do because I'm in the biggest bully pulpit in the world. You've got to assume responsibility, my friend, and you've got to rely on the facts. You've got to rely on the data, because science doesn't make moral judgments. Science is science. Gravity is gravity, no matter what. So rely on the data, rely on the facts, and then move forward from there. Don't move forward from wishful thinking. Does that make sense? Now, I want to be clear on this. Wishful thinking, when I say that, I mean ignoring the science and going ahead anyway. I'm not saying don't be creative, don't use your imagination. That's a good time to have wishful thinking, when you can say, how can I? But if the science says, hey, you can't do that, if I take the apple and I drop it and my thinking is I want it to go up, not down, that ain't gonna happen. That's wishful thinking. Does that make sense? And finally, today, once again, and this bears repeating, time, not money, is your most valuable asset. I'm sure that, as an example, that you've heard of Walt Disney, the creator of Disneyland, Disney World, all the cartoons, Mickey Mouse, Goofy, all my friends here, okay? Did you know that Walt Disney went bankrupt, I believe it was 7 times? He had his ideas for what he wanted to do, and he paid the price in terms of failure after failure after failure after failure. But it really wasn't a failure. Each one was a new learning process, and he took what he learned and added it together, and the things that he learned over time became his most valuable asset. So don't look at failure as failure, look at it as feedback, as time well spent where you learn something, so the next time you won't make that same mistake. As an example, I've told you this story before. When I was a junior in high school, in one of the first games of the year that we were playing, I had the ball with about 4 or 5 seconds left in the game. We're down by a point, and the ball's in my hands, and I passed it off instead of taking the shot. You can bet that after all the feedback I got from making that mistake, that A, I never made that mistake again, and B, when I became a coach, I saw to it that none of my players would ever find themselves in a position to make that mistake. How? Because we practiced that particular scenario, so when it did come up in a game, we didn't always make the shot, but we at least took the shot. And I believe Wayne Gretzky's the one that said, you can't score a goal unless you take the shot. So, once again, the people that are successful don't look at failure as failure, they look at it as a stepping stone to success. Failure is feedback. And because we're never going to end a meeting on a philosophical note, once again, I have to give a huge shout out to Thomas Opunk for his article, 103 Life Lessons People Often Learn Too Late. I'm saying these to you because I don't want you to learn them too late. We'll never end a meeting on a philosophical note. Let's all get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.